Hare Krishna. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Dadati Shwapadantikam Vande Ham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Shahagana Ragunatam Vetantam Sajivam Sadvaitam Shavadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kantha Radha Kantha Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishabhanu Stuti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Payate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinakaya Hare Krishna Katanjana Smriti Yasmin Duskaram Sukaram Bhavet Vismrite Viparitam Shat Shri Chaitanya Nama Hare Krishna. Okay, welcome all the devotees. Welcome back to our Bhakti Sastri Upadesamrita. So today hopefully we will cover text number 2 and 3, Upadesamrita, just to remind us what we have discussed in the previous class. So we touched briefly the preface of the Upadesamrita written by Srila Prabhupada. So there Srila Prabhupada explained about the attitude also. Attitude is very important. And Prabhupada also touching.
అవును ప్రభు మొన్నటిదా చాలా పని ఇది ఇంకా స్టార్టింగ్ లో సారీ.
Thank you. Others may remain muted. We'll get your chance later. So Srila Prabhupada also touched about controlling the senses, especially the mind. And of course, the first verse of the Upadesamrita talks about the pratikul. Pratikul means the unfavorable. So we have to somehow or other control these 6 urges, which is actually, if we engross with these 6 demands of the body, so we will not be able to advance spiritually in Krishna consciousness. So similarly, text number 2, what we're going to discuss today, is actually the still on the same part of the practical aspect of devotional service, pratikulya savajam. So we have to reject this. Yeah, like atyahar, prayasa, prajalpo, we will discuss this. And then text number 3 is the anukul aspect. This is the favorable things that we have to follow. So we will see. This is the topic of our discussion today. Yeah. Text number 2, obstacles to devotional service. Basically, we have to avoid the 6 kind of vices. Okay? So text 2 describes the consequences of not controlling the mind and senses. By his own choice, the conditioned soul has fallen under the jurisdiction of the material energy of the Lord. Under its influence, he has to meet the demands of the body, which is a product of this energy. Text 2 further explain how to meet these basic demands in a way that fosters spiritual progress rather than material entanglement. So we see, this is also the famous verse, as in the previous class we have discussed that actually these verses of the Upadesamrita should be all the time worn by the devotees, all the time memorized by the devotees, remembered by the devotees. Yeah, practicing sadhakas. Yeah. Just like how we wear our kantimala all the time, we never take it off. Yeah, similarly, these verses of Upadesamrita should be always accompanying our life. So this is text number 2, Upadesamrita. Atyahara prayasascha prajalpo niyama graha jana sangascha laulyam cha sadbir bhaktir vinashati. So vinashati means destroy. So sadbhi means the six items can destroy our bhakti. Sadbir bhaktir vinashati. So this is the practical, unfavorable. We have to avoid this as much as. So translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. One's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities. 1. Eating more than necessary. So atya ahar means eating. But another meaning also of atyahar is collecting more funds than required, or collecting something which is not really necessary. This is in the category of atyahara. And then number 2, over endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain. Yeah. So we are putting extra effort for something which is difficult to obtain. As a result, we waste a lot of time, energy. Rather, actually, we can use our time more in Krishna consciousness, our energy more in Krishna consciousness. And then number 3, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters, prajalpo. And then number 4, practicing the scriptural rules and regulation only for the sake of following them. This is the first meaning of niyama graha. And then the another meaning of niyama graha is, and not for the sake of spiritual advancement. Another meaning is that rejecting the rules and regulation of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically. So we will discuss this a bit more later. And then number 5, associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And 6, being greedy for mundane achievement, laulyam, being greedy for mundane achievement. So let's see Srila Prabhupada's purport on this. Srila Prabhupada mentioned, human life is meant for plain living and high thinking. Yeah, simple living, high thinking. Since all conditioned living beings are under control of the Lord's third energy. What is the third energy? The Bahiranga Sakti, yeah, the external energy, the Mahamaya. This material world is designed so that one is obliged to work. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has 3 primary energies or potencies. The first is called Antaranga Sakti, or the internal potency. This is the Yoga Maya. The second is called Tatastha Sakti, or the marginal energy. So we are in the category, the living entities in the category of the Tatastha Sakti, marginal potency, because we are in between. In between means, of course, by nature, our constitutional position, we are belong to the Paraprakriti, actually. Paraprakriti, higher potency of the Lord. But because we have minute independency, so we can choose whether we want to be in the spiritual realm or in the material realm. That's why we are in between, marginal, in the border. Okay. And then third is called the Bahiranga Sakti. Bahiranga means the external potency. The living entities constitute the marginal potency, and they are situated between the internal and the external potencies. So these are about 3 potencies of the Lord: Antaranga, Tatastha, Bahiranga. Being subordinate as eternal servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Jivatmas, or atomic living entities, must remain under the control of either the internal or external potency. When they are under the control of the internal potency, they display their natural constitutional activity, namely constant engagement in the devotional service of the Lord. So because of this minute independency, we have the right to choose. Okay, we have the right to choose whether we want to be influenced by internal potency or by the external potency of the Lord. whether we want to engage in devotional service or we engage in the service of Maya. Yeah, Srila Prabhupada, right after that, quoted the verse from 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Mahatmanas tumam partha, Daivim prakriti masitaha bhajanti ananyamana sogyatva. So this is the symptoms of the Mahatma. Switch on my hotspot here. Just give me a few seconds. Okay. All right. Fine. So we have the mind of independency, whether we want to be in the service of the Lord or in the service of Maya. Yeah. So Srila Prabhupada quoted it first. So this is the symptoms of the Mahatma. Mahatma means the great soul. Yeah. Mahatma, great soul. Great soul means he is always Bhajantiya Ananya. Bhajanti Ananya. Manaso, always engage in the Lord's service and engaging his mind, thinking constantly about the Lord. Bhajanti Ananya Manaso. And then Mahatmanas Tumambara, Daivi Prakriti, he always under the influence of the internal potency, under the influence of internal potency, because whenever the jivas engage in the service of the Lord, he will be protected by the Daivi Prakriti, the internal potency of the Lord. So as soon as we deviate from the service of the Lord, that means we are under the influence of Mahamaya. Okay. Continuing, discussing on that verse. The word Mahatma refers to those who are broad-minded, not crippled-minded. So this is the difference between there's Mahatma and Duratma. Mahatma means those who engage in Krishna service, and Duratma means those who do not engage in Krishna service. So Mahatma refers to those who are broad-minded, not crippled-minded. Crippled-minded persons always engage in satisfying their senses, sometimes expand their activities in order to do good for others through some ism like nationalism, humanitarianism, or altruism. So sense gratification, those who are engaged in, those who are absorbed, Maya Sukaya Bharam Udwahato Vimudham. Prahlad Maharaj explained in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Maya Sukaya. So simply engrossed in trying to gratify one's senses. This is called Maya Sukaya because that happiness, material happiness, doesn't last for long. It just like blinking of the eyes. Blinking of the eyes. Srila Prabhupada explained, just like blinking of the eyes. Very short. So it doesn't last for long. This is material happiness doesn't give us perpetual happiness. Therefore, it is called Maya Sukaya, illusory happiness. Maya Sukaya Bharam Udwahato Vimudan. So those kind of people call Mudha. Mudha means actually fools, asses, asses, or yeah. the Kripana, the Srimad Bhagavad Gita explains as Kripana, Karpanya those who follow. So Kripana, there is Brahmana, there is Kripana, there is Mahatma, there is Duratma. So Duratma means those who are always absorbed in gratifying their senses. So although sometimes we see that people are engaged in so-called, as Srila Prabhupada mentioned here, nationalism, altruism, whatsoever, but that's actually an extended sense gratification, or the immediate, the closer example. We can say, for example, I work so hard just to provide the needs or fulfill the desires of my family members. Although I don't get although I'm not so enjoying the result of my activities, because I'm happy when I see my family. So this is called extended sense gratification. We may not be directly enjoying the result of our work. So we work hard just to make our family members happy, to make our wife happy, or to make our children happy. So this is called extended sense gratification. This is called the aham mameti conception. So aham means me, mameti means mine. So because my wife and my children happy, therefore it's automatically actually giving me satisfaction, giving me happiness, some sort of happiness. So this is called extended, and then it's even expand more to nationalism. Some people are so crazy, in this Kali Yuga. Some people are so crazy about football club, for example, football club, your country. This is the team of your country team, yeah, your country team, football team. Or in India, most famous sport is cricket. Yeah, whenever India has match with any other country, cricket. So the whole India will become so crazy and absorbed, like even praying to God, please, our country should win this game. This is called the expanding sense gratification. It has nothing to do with us actually. Who's being glorified? Who's being glorified? Okay, this player is being glorified, but when these players win the game, so because I'm an Indian, for example, I'm an Indian, so I become happy. I'm proud. Oh, India, yeah, India defeats other countries in cricket game, for example. So this is called the expanded sense gratification. It has nothing to do with us actually, but this is the nature of sense gratification, material sense gratification. Duratma. In the above quoted verse from Bhagavad Gita, that verse, yeah, Mahatmanas still. The word Daivim Prakritim refers to the control of the internal potency or pleasure potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This pleasure potency is manifested as Srimati Radharani or Hladini Sakti. Pleasure potency, pleasure giving potency. Or her expansion, Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. When the individual jiva, souls, are under the control of the internal energy, their only engagement is the satisfaction of Krishna or Vishnu. This is the position of a Mahatma. If one is not a Mahatma, he is a Duratma or a cripple-minded person. Such mentally crippled Duratmas are put under the control of the Lord's external potency, Mahamaya. Yeah, so that's Yoga Maya and Mahamaya. Okay, that's clear about Mahatma and Duratma. Prabhupada continue. Indeed, all living entities within this material world are under the control of Mahamaya, whose business is to subject them to the influence of threefold miseries. So what are the threefold miseries? Adidaivika klesa, suffering caused by demigods, such as drought, earthquakes, and storms. And then Adibhautika klesa, suffering caused by other living entities like insects or enemies, and adhyatmika klesa, suffering caused by one's own body and mind, such as mental and physical infirmities. So among these three klesas, actually the adhyatmika klesa is actually the biggest, I would say, giving biggest influence in our life as far as miseries are concerned, because the uncontrolled mind. So because of the uncontrolled mind, we are suffering. But when we can control our mind, when we always being a sober person, although there are some calamities caused by demigods or other living entities, we remain steady, we remain fixed in our service because we have controlled mind. So actually, most of the miseries that we feel in life is actually due to our mind, due to our mind, adya atmika, due to our own self actually. What is it? Maya nanyena bhavena bhaktim kurvanti yedina matritek tyakta karmanas tyakva swajana bandhan. So those who are absorbed in always serving the Lord, especially thinking about the Lord. Maya na anena bhavena, using his bhava, his emotion, his love to serve Krishna. So he doesn't feel any pangs of material miseries. So Srimad Bhagavatam is the end of tree. So most of the suffering, miseries that we feel actually due to our own mind. For example, like excessive heat or excessive cold, it is caused by the demigods, by higher authority. But those who understand that I'm not the body, those who realize that I'm not the body, will not complain. But those who are too absorbed, focusing so much on the bodily platforms, or always trying to make comfortable life in the material world, although actually uh, it's always a futile attempt, I would say like that, when we try to be always in a comfortable position, because the very nature of the material world is dukkalaya masaswatam. Everything is temporary and full of things. Yeah, so we don't find perpetual, uh, constant, comfortable situation in life as long as we are in the material world. But when we can control our mind, when we engage, absorb our mind in Krishna service, so although some miseries come to life, so we remain sober. We remain sober. We are undisturbed. We are undisturbed, just like yathadipo nivatasto ningate chopama priha. So Krishna explained in the Bhagavad Gita, yathadipo nivatasto, just like a deepa, a lamp, candle, fire in the windless place, so it's unshaked. So that's actually a person whose mind is fixed in the Lord's service, unwaved, unwaved. His mind is unwaved, just like this fire in the windless place. So it's unwaved, always steady. So that's of course a very high standard, and as far as possible, we should aspire. At least we should aspire to be in that position. Otherwise, there will be unlimited miseries come to life, and we always complain. We always complain. And why we get this suffering? Because we deserve. Gunjana ewatma kritam vipakam. Due to our past misdeed, we deserve this. We cannot avoid this. It doesn't mean that now we join the Krishna consciousness movement, we are chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, miseries will not come to life. No, miseries will come to life anyway. But the art is that we can actually remain sober by controlling our mind. All right. And then, yeah. Srila Prabhupada explained one by one of items, mentioned cheating or over collecting. What Srila Prabhupada said about that? Let's see. according to nature's arrangement, living entities lower on the evolutionary scale do not eat or collect more than necessary. What Srila Prabhupada said here, the animals, they don't overeating, over collecting. Yeah. The animal, they don't do that. The so-called intelligent human being, that's it. Yeah. Srila Prabhupada give the example of a pigeon. Consequently, in the animal kingdom, there is generally no economic problem or scarcity of necessities. If a bag of rice is placed in a public place, birds will come to eat a few grains and go away. A human being, however, will take away the whole bag. He will eat all his stomach he will eat all his stomach can hold, and then try to keep the rest in storage. According to scriptures, this collecting of more than necessary, or atyahara, is prohibited. Now the entire world is suffering because of it. So why there is economic problem? There's so many big scientists, philosophers having some meeting and exchanging their theories, their ideas on how to solve the economic problem. Well, as long as the so-called intelligent human beings practicing this atyahara, overeating, overcollecting, so the economic problem will not be solved. So Srila Prabhupada actually indirectly explaining here uh, as far as economic situation, economic condition is concerned, the animal is actually much more better than the human, because the animal will eat only whatever they need, and after that, the rest they just leave for other living entities. Yeah. So Mother Nature, as the Prabhupada mentioned, by nature's arrangement, actually nature is enough to provide one's need, not enough to provide one's greed. Yeah. Nature providing enough actually, but due to our greedy nature, so we are actually creating trouble for our own self. Atyahara, overeating, over collecting. Well, another important point here regarding atyahara means also eating something which is not offered to Krishna. This is in the category of atyahara. Furthermore, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anuvriti commentary that this is three types of atyaharas. First, too much endeavor to acquire knowledge on the part of mental speculators or dry philosophers falls within the category of atyahara. So when we try to speculate, giving our own mental concoction on scriptures, try to give some commentary, this is called atyahara, over collecting, too much endeavor to acquire knowledge on the part of mental speculators, atyahara, collecting more than needed. And then second, the work of karmis who write volumes of books on economic development also falls within the category of atyahara. So actually it's very simple how to overcome the economic problem. Just don't be greedy. Isha vasha midam sarvam. That principle, Isha vasha principle, when we follow the principles given in the Shastra, Isha vasha principle, everything belongs to Krishna. Madhrida kasha shri danam, should not be greedy, should not take whatever which is not our quota. So writing so much books on economic development, this is actually unnecessary, completely unnecessary, because to solve economic problem is very simple. But the so-called scientists, philosophers, they are writing so many books on economic development, in the category of atyahara. And then the third one is that those who have no desire for Krishna consciousness and who are simply interested in possessing more and more material things, either in the shape of scientific knowledge or monetary gain. All are included under the control of atyahara. So over collecting, unnecessary collecting, this is atyahara. So that's three types of atyahara. And then now prayasa. Prayasa means over endeavor. Srila Prabhupada said, collecting and eating more than necessary also causes prayasa or unnecessary endeavor. So the first one, atyahara, very much related to prayasa, because we have desire to over collecting. So naturally, now what we will do is over endeavoring, unnecessary endeavor. By God's arrangement, anyone in any part of the world can live very peacefully if he has some land and a milk cow. There is no need for man to move from one place to another to earn a livelihood, for one can produce food grains locally and get milk from cows. That can solve all economic problems. What is the definition of economy? Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Krishna define what is economy. Krishi Goraksa Varnijam. That's it. Economy means Krishi, cultivation of land. Goraksa, protecting mother cows. So by protecting mother cows, we get the ahimsa milk. Yeah, very healthy milk. So we produce our own grains, anad bhavanti bhutani, because the human form of life can be sustained by eating grains, So there is no need to open slaughterhouse to, acquire meat. Then Krishi Goraksa and Varnijam. Varnijam means trade. Trade is actually different from business, like what we practice in Kali Yuga. So Srila Prabhupada explained that first we produce for our own self, and then whatever excess, then we can trade. Normally we do this barter system. In one morning walk, actually, Srila Prabhupada condemned so much about the paper currency, the modern system of paper currency. And nowadays, sometimes even we don't see the currency, we don't see the note. We just see some digital number online. Everything is paid online. And this is actually not very ideal. People think that this is actually giving us an easier way how to trade, how to buy things, but actually it will not last for long. Srila Prabhupada said it will not last for long. This kind of system, paper currency, and moreover this digital money, Prabhupada said this is a doomed civilization, it will be collapsed. So I'm not trying to be skeptical here, but it's actually a fact. Sooner or later, the city civilization will be collapsed, and we have to start actually farming, producing our own food. If we don't start now, Mother Nature will force us. Mother Nature will force us naturally. Just like in Venezuela. Take for example in Venezuela. Venezuela was very rich and prosperous country because they produce so much oil. Produce so much oil, and everybody is forgetting the art of growing their own food. And then what happened just few years ago, even till now, the economic situation still unstable. People go hungry, and then all the shop being robbed. People just running for food. That's it. Nothing else, just for food. Money has no value. See, this kind of system, economic system, when we violate, when we torture Mother Nature, so Mother Nature will give us, little shake, and we are forced actually to come back to traditional way of living, simple living. So as Srila Prabhupada explained here, economic problem, actually, if we just follow Shastra, there will be no economic problem. Because of atyahar, over collecting or overeating, over collecting. So naturally, it will bring us to the next stage, which is over endeavoring, prayasa, over endeavoring. But if we live according to Shastra, simple life, grow our own food, produce grains, fruits, and milk cows, be happy with that. So we don't have to go so far actually to earn our livelihood. So this is troublesome actually. Some people go, and if you read the purport of Srila Prabhupada in the fifth canto, what is that verse? Fifth canto, fifth chapter, the first verse. Yeah. Nayam deho deha bhajam griloke. I think the first, second, or third verse of Srila Prabhupada's purport. There, Srila Prabhupada mentioned, just like in India, people just to earn their livelihood, they have to work in a far distance. They get up early in the morning, they catch the local train. If you never experience local train in India, try once, you will understand. It's so crowded, and and they have to stand, no place to sit. They stand for 2 or 3 hours, just one way. Then they work for crazy hours, and then come back late night, another 3 hours being crushed in the local train. So this is troublesome, but still they are thinking that this is the best job that they have. This is the only opportunity. But if they just turn their life into simple life, producing their own food, maintain cows, no more economic problem. So over and ever takes place because of over collecting. That's natural stage. Okay, that's about prayasa. And then prajalpa. Srila Prabhupada mentioned another impediment is prajalpa, unnecessary talking. When we mix with a few friends, we immediately begin unnecessary talking, sounding just like croaking frogs. Yeah, in the text one also, Srila Prabhupada gave the example about the what is that? Jiva Vegam, controlling the tongue. No, yeah, controlling tongue, and what is that? Vacho Vegam, yeah, Vacho Vegam, controlling the speech. Srila Prabhupada gave the example of croaking toads in the text number one. In the previous class, we have discussed this. Srila Prabhupada said, just like a croaking frog, croaking, inviting the snake to eat. Please come here. Please come here, eat me. So this is Gramya Katha. If we must talk, we should talk about the Krishna consciousness movement. Those outside of the Krishna consciousness movement are interested in reading heaps of newspapers, magazines, and novels, solving crossword puzzles. This is common thing. And doing many other nonsensical things. Sruta vyadini rajendra nam santi sahasrasa apashyatam atmatatvam griheshu grihamedina. So the envious people, grihamedi. Medi means envious. Griha, the envious householder. What envious householder means? Those who center their life actually in mundane affair, especially in the sex life. If you are from India, this word medhi, medhi is actually a tool, a traditional tool that people use to unhusk the rice whenever they harvest the rice. So this medhi is actually there is a pole, and then bulls will go around this pole. Will go around this pole to unhusk the rice. So this is called medhi. And Srila Prabhupada explained that this pole is the center of this medhi. So it's compared just like the griha medhi. So this pole is actually sex life. Mridaya Haryate Nakam Yavaina Chavavai Hadivachate Hayarajan Kutumba Varanina. So these are the activities of the Grihame. Mridaya Haryate Nakam. So at night they sleep or they have sexual intercourse. kutumba bharanena, or daytime they work hard and maintain their family members. So apart from that, also Sruta Vyadini Rajana, they have so many topics of discussion which is not related to Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada give the example here, just like reading heaps of newspaper, just like some people every morning receiving newspaper. I mean, some news about murder, about raping, about uh, robbing, whatever, or sport news, whatever is there in the newspaper. And after that, the newspaper useless and throw away, spending so much money to buy this newspaper. Yeah. So that's about the prajalpa, just like the croaking toad. So as soon as we get the chance, Srila Prabhupada said, we mix with our friends. As soon as we get the chance, immediately we want to talk. Unnecessary talking. But of course, this is not the case of the devotees. Devotees will always talk about how to preach, how to expand the movement, preaching movement. Okay, that's about prajalpa. And then niyamagraha. Niyamagraha, Srila Prabhupada said, accepting some of the scriptural rules and regulation for immediate benefit or utilitarians advocate is called niyama agraha. So this niyama agraha means eagerness to accept. So niyamagraha, one meaning of niyamagraha is that to accept rules and regulation without proper understanding why I'm doing this or for material benefit. People may glorify you because you follow rules and regulation. For example, you go to temple every for example, every Sunday or whatever, every weekend or every Purnima or every dark moon. Some people doing this, so it is recommended, right? But if you do this just to get some material gain, for example, material gain in the sense of people will glorify you, people will recognize you, you are such a religious person. So this is called niyama agraha. Or you just go to temple for whatever darshanarati or to see the deities, to greet the deities. So people will see that you are coming to temple regularly. So this is called niyamagraha. Doesn't give you any spiritual advancement. Well, of course, you still get benefit of taking darshan of the deities. You get purification. But as far as spiritual advancement, rapid spiritual advancement is concerned, it doesn't help you if you have this mentality. This is called niyamagraha. Just follow rules and regulation just for ulterior motive. So it's called niyamagraha. And then second understanding of niyamagraha is that neglecting the rules and regulation of the sastras, which are meant for spiritual development, is called niyamagraha. So if you analyze this word, the first agraha with this sign diacritic on the top, agraha, and this without, it's just plain agraha. So this agraha means failure to accept. That means we are completely rejecting. Yasasra vidim utsrija vartate kama karanata. Nasasidim avapnoti nasukam na paramgat. So we act whimsically. Yasastra vidhi. Vidhi means rules and regulation. Rules and regulation of the sastra, we completely reject rules and regulation. Vartate kama karata. Vartate kama karata. We are acting according to our own whims, according to our own material desires. I'm independent. I don't trust Shastra. This is called Niyamagraha also. So those are the two understanding of Niyamagraha. First, eagerness to accept, but for material benefit. And then second is failure to accept. Prabhupada continue, by addition of either of these two words to the word niyama, rules and regulation, the word niyamagraha is formed. So if you remember in the first 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the Astanga yoga practice, there is yama and then niyama. Yama means rules and regulation. Okay, thus niyamagraha has twofold meaning that is understood according to the particular combination of word. Those interested in Krishna consciousness should not be eager to accept rules and regulation for economic advancement, yet they should very faithfully accept scriptural rules and regulation for the advancement of Krishna consciousness. They should strictly follow the regulative principles by avoiding illicit sex, meat eating, gambling, and intoxication. So we, as the sadhakas, practicing devotees, we follow rules and regulations strictly, and we have the understanding why I'm following this. It is not for any material benefit. It is not to impress others, but it's for spiritual advancement. It's conducive. It's conducive for my bhakti lota. Okay, that's about niyamagraha. And then jana sangha, or avoiding the association of the non-devout. Srila Prabhupada writes, jana sangha refers to associating with persons not interested in Krishna consciousness. Jana sangha means associating with worldly minded person. So this should be avoided. One should strictly avoid such association. Srila Narottam Das Thakur has therefore advised us to live only in the association of Krishna conscious devotees, Bhakta Shanivas. One should always engage in the service of the Lord in the association of the Lord's devotees. Association with those engaged in a similar line of business is very conducive to advancement in that business. Similarly, we have established, so this is a very significant statement by Srila Prabhupada, why ISKCON is existing. We have established the International Society for Krishna Consciousness to give people an opportunity to associate with those who have not forgotten, with those who have not forgotten Krishna. This spiritual association offered by our ISKCON movement is increasing day by day. Many people from different parts of the world are joining this society to awaken their dormant Krishna consciousness. So we understand here actually the mood and mission of Srila Prabhupada, that Srila Prabhupada established ISKCON, and ISKCON primarily, mainly to be an educational institution, spiritual education and institution, and preaching movement. So our movement is preaching movement. We try to share Krishna consciousness to others. Yeah. So association, Srila Prabhupada is touching about association. Tulaya malavena pina swargana punartava bhagavat sanghi sangasha matyanam ke mutasha. So association with the Bhagavat Sangisha. So Bhagavat refers to Krishna, is the supreme person, Bhagavat. And Bhagavat also means the worshipper of the Lord, the devotees, Bhagavat, those who live according to Bhagavat, also called Bhagavat. So Bhagavat Sangi Shanga. So association of the devotees of the Lord cannot be compared, the benefit cannot be compared, yeah, to Laima Lavinapi, slight association. What to speak about associating ourselves 24 hours with the devotees. Slight association cannot be compared with the achievement of na swarga, na punarbhava, na swarga, heavenly attainment, na punarbhava, even liberation, impersonal liberation. Na punarbhava, Bhagavat Sangi Samisha, Martyanam Kim Utasisaha, and what to speak of material wealth. So cannot be compared. It's so precious actually, association with the devotees. But sometimes we feel tired of associating with the devotees, thinking that it's too much. It's too much sometimes. Just leave me alone. Sometimes we think like that. But actually that's a mistake actually. When we try to be independent, from other devotees. So that's actually the beginning of our fall down. Yeah, the beginning of our fall down. That's why in the age of Kali Yuga, congregational chanting, the Sankirtan, as much as possible is encouraged. Sankirtan, Sangha Kirtan, because we cannot actually become steady in our mind when we just practice devotional service alone. Of course, when uh, the jiva, like on the level of Srila Haridas Thakur, can do that. He can chant because he get the ruchi, he get the nam ruchi, taste to chant the holy name. But people like us, mostly, uh, we don't have this taste. So therefore, Sankirtan is very much encouraged. Srila Prabhupada criticizes so much actually about some uh, fake Babajis in Vrindavan, for example. They live in the secluded place just to impress others that, I live in this cave, simple life. I eat only plain baked dough. But behind the scene, actually, they have few girls, few women. Hare Krishna. So Jana Sangha, association with a worldly minded person. So there are two types of materialistic people. Srila Prabhupada explained two types of materialistic people. One is just like Hiranyaksa, searching for gold. Hiranya means gold. Aksha means eyes. So his eye is just searching for gold, wealth. So one type of materialistic people is those who are completely engrossed, absorbed in collecting material wealth. And then another type of materialistic people is that those who are very much, I would say, very much inclined, very much engrossed in sex life. He's always thinking about sex life. Hiranyakasipu, gold and soft bed. So these two types of people should be very much avoided. Should be very much avoided. Okay, Jana Sangas, and then Laulyam, greed, tatas, kama krodas, tata lobas. In the previous class, we have touched that point, that three gates leading to hell. So Laulyam, lobha means greed. Desires to expand the mind by perfecting mystic yoga to merge into the existence of Brahman or to attain whimsical material prosperity are all included within the category of greed, laulyam. All attempts to acquire such material benefits or so-called spiritual advancement are impediments on the path of Krishna consciousness. So interesting here, Srila Prabhupada explained that it is not only about gaining more and more material things, but also when we have the desire to get some perfection in mystic yoga, yeah, there are 8 types of siddhis, yeah, anima, mahima, lagima, and so on. So this is also called lolyam because it is completely unnecessary. Vritasura completely rejecting. Nayoga siddhira punar bhavam va samanjasatva virahaya kamsit. So Vritasura on the verge of death, praying to the Lord. Samanjasa, he addressed the Lord as Samanjasa. Samanjasa means the source of all opportunities. So whatever we ask from Krishna actually will be fulfilled, provided that we have to be intense in our devotional service. So Krishna will fulfill, because he is the source of all opportunities. But Vritasura said that na yoga siddhi, I don't desire the 8 perfection of yoga. Na yoga siddhi apunar bhava, even liberation, he reject. Liberation means the impersonal liberation. Yeah, as Srila Prabhupada mentioned here, to merge to the existence of Brahman. This is also called loyam. It is unnecessary. It's a foolish idea actually to merge with God, because by nature we are always being individual. Yeah, we always maintain our individuality. We cannot really merge with God. We cannot become God. Okay, that's about loyam, and this is impediments on the path of Krishna consciousness. So this is just the concluding section of this text number 2. When human society gives up these elementary faults enumerated by Srila Rupa Goswami, Adyahara, etc., all enmity will cease between man and animals, capitalists and communists, and so forth. In addition, all problems of economic or political maladjustment maladjustment, and instability will be solved. This pure consciousness is awakened by the proper spiritual education and practice offered scientifically by the Krishna consciousness movement. Again, Srila Prabhupada glorify our ISKCON institution as the spiritual education. This Krishna consciousness movement offers a spiritual community that can bring about a peaceful condition in the world. Every intelligent man should purify his consciousness and rid himself of the above mentioned 6 hindrances to devotional service by taking wholeheartedly shelter of this Krishna consciousness movement. All right, so these are the 6 obstacles on the path of devotional service. Tyahara, Prayasa, Prajalpo, Niyamagahajana, Sangachalo, Sabir Bhakti Vinashati. So Vinashati, it destroy our devotional service, our bhakti. Therefore, it should be avoided. Okay. All right, that's about text number 2. Whether any question or comments, correction, some points need to be discussed about text number 2. It's your time now to speak up. Okay, if no comments, no question, I hope everything is clear. That first. Okay, Swarup Shri Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, it's not a doubt, Prabhu. The doubt on the shloka, I just you were telling yesterday last class that the shloka to tell recite by closing eyes. Which slokas, Prabhu? How many slokas? Actually, I was something missing. I don't know. Can you explain that?
Can you say again? Your voice is not so audible.
Yeah. You are asking, Prabhu, whenever you by heart shloka recite something, by closing eyes and call.
Prabhuji is saying about that reciting the slokas by memory, Prabhuji. What are all the slokas? I think he is asking.
Say again, Lakshmi Narasimha Prabhu.
Prabhuji, like we need to memorize the slokas by heart and then we have to recite it, na Prabhuji. So
right.
Prabhuji is asking like what kind of slokas and can we get the list or something? Prabhuji is asking.
You mean from the Upadesamrita or in general?
Swarup Siddhi Prabhuji, all the slokas are Prabhu or in general?
Yeah, you were telling in the last class also that whenever you by heart slokas, you call me anytime and close eyes, tell me that what is that Prabhu? And that's what any sloka, any Bhagavad Gita, anything is there pending from us, like apart from the exams?
Yeah, any sloka, actually, any sloka from scripture, especially from the Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita, that's actually actually good practice. This is called the abhyasa. What's that? Anudvega karam vakyam satyam priyahitam swadhyaya abhyasanam chaiva vanmaya taposha. This is the austerity also for the speech, how to control the speech by swadhyaya. Swadhyaya actually means to study, but there Srila Prabhupada translated by regularly reciting the Vedic mantra. So yeah, any slokas which is actually, well, there are unlimited slokas, especially from the Srimad Bhagavatam, very interesting slokas. So any slokas will be helpful for us.
Yeah, is it for sadhana, Prabhu, or is it part of Bhakti Shastri exam, Prabhu? Then that's what I try to understand.
Sorry?
Is it for Bhakti Shastri related? Bhakti Shastri exam related, or personally just read?
He is asking like, is it a part of Bhakti Shastri module or in general? Maybe Prabhuji, your voice is very low, Prabhu, I think. Swarup Siddhi Prabhu. Yeah.
Yeah, yes, Prabhu. Yeah, the loudspeaker may be problem. Yeah, no. Is it okay, Prabhu?
Uh, yeah, yeah.
Is
Is
it?
it
Yeah,
part
it
of
got very
yeah,
loud.
I mean, there are 45 slokas that you have to submit. You have to recite and submit to me. We
Yeah.
can have a video call. So that's
Any,
actually part
how
of
many
the
pages?
Bhakti Shastri, what do you call this? Exam, Bhakti Shastri exam. Yeah. There is closed book assessment. There is open book assessment, which is writing the essays. Writing the slokas. There are 45 slokas in your handbook that you have to submit. Submitting sloka means you memorize that verse and then you recite it in the front of me. So this is part of the Bhakti Sastri uh, examination. So there are 45 slokas. Hare Krishna Swarup Shri Guru.
Okay, okay, Prabhuji. That's what I wanted to understand. Yeah.
Okay, anything to be clarified, we can communicate later in
Yeah.
private.
Sure, sure, Prabhu. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. Um, okay, we shall move to the next verse. Okay. Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare. Okay, text number 3. So this is part of the Anukul. Anukul means the favorable. We have to accept this. Text number 3 to 7, we have to accept this. That text number 3, principles that aid devotional service. 6 principles are given that help us progress on the path of pure devotional service. Before discussing them, Sri Goswami explains what pure devotional service is. So this is the verse. Utsahan Nishchayat Dhairyat Tat Karma Pravartana Sangatyagat Sato Brite Sadbir Bhakti Prasidhyati. So Prasidhyati, flourish. Translation. There are 6 principles favorable to the execution of pure devotional service. 1. Being enthusiastic, Sahan. 2. Endeavoring with confidence, Nishchaya. Number 3, being patient. Number 4, acting according to regulated principles such as Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, hearing, chanting, and remembering Krishna. Number 5, avoiding the association of non-devotees. And number 6, following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. These 6 principles undoubtedly assure the complete success of pure devotional service. So prasidyati will help the growth of our bhakti, sadbhir bhakti. So these 6 things will help us. So we should accept this anukulyasa, anukulyasa sankalpa. Okay. So as we have read in the previous slide about the overview of text number 3. So here Srila Prabhupada explained first about pure devotional service. So we have to know pure devotional service because these 6 items talks about these 6 items will help us to cultivate pure devotional. Of course, in the nectar of devotion, we have a lot of discussion about pure devotional service. So Srila Prabhupada said, Bhakti is a sort of cultivation, like we are cultivating some grains, some fruits. So bhakti is sort of cultivation, it's activity. As soon as we say cultivation, we must refer to activity. Cultivation of spirituality does not mean sitting down idly for meditation, as some pseudo-yogis teach. Such idle meditation may be good for those who have no information of devotional service. And for this reason, it is sometimes recommended as a way to check distracting materialistic activities. Meditation means stopping all nonsensical activities. at least for the time being. Devotional service, however, not only puts an end to all nonsensical mundane activities, but also engages one in meaningful devotional service. So Srila Prabhupada compare here the uh, so-called yoga meditation process and devotional service. Of course, for as Srila Prabhupada mentioned, for those who have no information about bhakti, about devotional service, they can practice this. At least they can check their senses for a time being, for some time. But then again, we may question that how long you can remain in such kind of meditation. Manda sumanda matayo manda bhagya hiupadutaha. This is the symptoms of people in Kali Yuga, lazy, always disturbed. So that will not be successful if we really want to control the mind completely. It's kind of meditation to check the senses completely, because senses cannot be stopped. It should be engaged in positive activities. So bhakti is cultivation of what? Cultivation of love of Godhead. And when we talk about cultivation, it refers to activities. So we cannot sit on meditation falsely, especially in the age of Kali Yuga. It's not at all recommended. We have to engage in Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhi. Rishikena Rishikesa. And next, Srila Prabhupada, of course, quoted this verse from the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. This is related to the bhakti cultivation. We talk about activities. So Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padaseva. Ashanam, Vandanam, Dashyam, Shakyam, Atma, Nivedanam. So this is Prahlad Maharaj's instruction. So these are the 9 processes of devotional service. Are as follows. You can read this. So this is from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and 7 chapter 5, text number 23. Actually, 23, text 23 and 24 combined together in that verses Srimad Bhagavatam. Iti pumsar pita Vishnu bhaktis chanava lakshana kreta bhagavati ada tanmanye ditam uttama. So those who are engaged, even one amongst these 9 processes of devotional service, Shravanam, Kirtanam, whatever, even one, he is considered to be tanmanye aditam uttamam. Uttama means the best. Uttama, uttama, the best person. Aditam, aditam uttamam. So intelligent, most intelligent person. Those who are engaged in these 9 processes of devotional spirit. Or if we cannot engage in 9 processes of devotional spirit, at least one, that's also you are considered as the uttama, as the best amongst people. Okay, so this is the positive engagement, and then Srila Prabhupada will talk one by one of these 6 items mentioned. First, utsaha, enthusiastic. One should accept this opportunity to return home back to Godhead very enthusiastic. Without enthusiasm, one cannot be successful. Even in the material world, one has to be very enthusiastic in his particular field of activity in order to become successful. A student, businessman, artist, or anyone else who wants success in his line must be enthusiastic. Similarly, one has to be very enthusiastic in devotional service. Enthusiasm means action, but action for whom? The answer is that one should always act for Krishna. Krishnartha Kilachista. So this is from Bhakti-Rasamrita. So enthusiastic, being enthusiastic in service, that will help us so much in advance in Krishna consciousness. The example is just like, well, of course, Hanuman, one of the best examples ever, is always enthusiastic. Therefore, even Lord Ram, he has books actually. Lord Ram has books about the list of the devotees who always remember Lord Ram. But then in that book, Hanuman's name was not there. So Hanuman felt so much dejected, and Lord Ram showed him another book, a book about who he always remember. So there is a book about who always remember Lord Ram, and there is a book about who always Lord Ram remember. And in that book, only Hanuman's name, because of his enthusiasm in serving the Lord, and also he is lowly and greedy serving the Lord. So that's about Utsahan. Srila Prabhupada said also, even in the material field, we have to be very enthusiastic. If you want to become a rich man, you have to work so hard, very enthusiastic. Don't be lazy. That's what Utsahan. Endeavor executed with intelligence in Krishna consciousness is called Utsaha, or enthusiasm. The devotees find the correct means by which everything can be utilized in the service of the Lord. Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yukta Vairagyam Uchate. So for devotees, everything can be engaged in Krishna service. Wealth, money, everything in Bandha Krishna Sambandh. Yukta Vairagya, Sister Yukta Vairagya principle. And when we execute devotional service, we use our intelligence also. It is not that simply enthusiastic, but without a proper plan. So our intelligence should be invested also in Krishna service. Otherwise, we may work so hard, but result may be very minimal because we don't plan properly, for example. Therefore, intelligence is required in Krishna service also. Intelligent combined with enthusiastic, so that will give ultimate result. That's about Utsahan. And then Nishchaya. In devotional service, in devotional service, surrender means that one has to become confident. The devotee thinks, Avashyarak Sive Krishna. Krishna will surely protect me and give me help for successful execution of devotional service. This is called confidence. Yeah. So there are 6 symptoms characteristic of fully surrender, saranagati. Anukulyasa sankalpa, pratikulyasa vajanam. Rasisyatiti viswasa. So rasisyatiti viswasa. Be confident, we feel confident that Krishna will always protect me. Krishna is the only protector. Krishna is the only maintainer. Avashya Rakshibe Krishna. Rakshibe means protection. Always being confident that Krishna will always protect us. Just like Prahlad Maharaj, for example. Due to his confidence in the Lord, he trusts Krishna. So, however, Hiranyakasipu tried to torture him, he didn't get even a scratch his skin, not even a bruise, because he is fully confident that Krishna will always protect him. I was hearing one of Kadamakanana Swami's lecture. So sometimes we don't have full faith on the Lord that the Lord will protect us. So he gave an example, just like when we climb a tree and the branch that we grasp on about to break. And then the Lord said, don't worry, you just jump, I will catch you. But we tell the Lord that please catch me first, at least you hold me first, then I will jump. That means we are doubting Krishna. This is most of our tendencies. We say that we have to be, having full faith on the Lord. Yes, fully surrender to the Lord. But in the deep core of our heart, sometimes we are doubting the Lord. Please catch me first, then I will jump. Although the Lord said, don't worry, you jump first, and then I will catch you. But we don't trust Krishna. But we should have this full confidence. Avashyaraksi be Krishna. Krishna will give protection. Just like Srila Prabhupada in the beginning, when he went to the West. So he was practically speaking with no money, with nothing, just with the briefcase full of Srimad Bhagavatam. That's it. But fully surrendered devotee like Srila Prabhupada will always be protected by Krishna. There is no doubt about it. So it's Chaya. confidence. And then dhairya, patience. These activities must be executed with patience. One should not be impatient in Krishna consciousness. Indeed, this Krishna consciousness movement was started single-handedly. If we see here, we may think that Srila Prabhupada glorified himself, but that's actually true. This Krishna consciousness movement was started single-handedly. And in the beginning, there was no response. But because we continue to execute our devotional activities with patience, people gradually began to understand the importance of this movement, and now they are eagerly participating. You know, sometimes Srila Prabhupada got disappointed also. He was alone in Boston. He got disappointed, no followers, no nothing, no response from people. Even when he was in the West, in the US, he was asking some help from the Indian embassy in the USA, help him to preach the devotional call, but there was no response, no response. Sometimes Srila Prabhupada would feel discouraged, and then he just went to the harbor in Boston. But then as soon as he reached there, he immediately returned. So the person, the guardians there, the receptionist in the ticket counter, used to say to Srila Prabhupada that Swamiji, all the time you came here, many times you came here, you're about to leave, but then you cancel. What's going on here? What's going on here? So Srila Prabhupada, he thought that, okay, now I'm going back to India. It's just useless. I'm useless. I cannot preach here. Let me go back to India. But when he reached the harbor, somehow or other, he just tried to convince himself, just be patient, be confident. Go back and preach. Just be Krishna's instrument. Nimitta matra bhava. So nimitta matra bhava. Be Krishna's instrument. Leave everything in Krishna. So patient. Sometimes when we preach, we may expect the immediate result, but maybe not. That's not the case for all of us. Sometimes we have to wait for years, many years. Then some local devotees may appear. So we have to be very patient. Srila Prabhupada gave the example also just like a new married couple. So women generally, they expect children. When they get married, they expect children. But it is not possible to get children overnight. It's not possible. So you have to wait at least for 1 year. For 1 year to beget a child. Yeah, very sad. One should not be impatient in discharging devotional service, but should take instruction from the spiritual master and execute them with patience, depending on the mercy of Guru, and Krishna. The successful execution of Krishna conscious activities requires both patience and confidence. That's about Harya. And then Tatat Karma Pravartana. Srila Prabhupada writes, as already explained, one should not be idle. Should not be idle, but should be very enthusiastic about executing the regulative principles. Tatat Karma Pravartana. So Tatat Karma Pravartana means we are accepting, following regulative principles. Neglect of the regulative principles will destroy devotional service. In this Krishna consciousness movement, there are 4 basic regulative principles: forbidding illicit sex, meat eating, gambling, and intoxication. The devotee must be very enthusiastic about following these principles. If he becomes slack in following any of them, his progress will certainly be checked. Srila Rupa Goswami therefore recommends Tatat Karma Pravartanat. One must strictly follow the regulative principles of Vaidhi Bhakti. Okay? So there are 2 aspects of Tatat Karma Pravartanat here I highlighted. In addition to these 4 prohibition, yama, there are positive regulative principles, yama, such as the daily chanting of 16 rounds of Japamala beads. These regulative activities must be faithfully performed with enthusiasm. This is called Tattat Karma Pravartana, or varied engagement in devotional service. So Yama and Niyama, these these are two aspects of Tattat Karma Pravartana. So there is prohibition. So rules and regulation, there are two aspects of rules and regulation. One is prohibition, that you should not do this, should not do that. And then another one is the injunction, that you must do. You must do. So this is the two aspects of Tattat Karma Pravartana. Yama and Niyama. Yama means the prohibition and Niyama means the injunction. The four regulative principles is actually the prohibition. No meat eating, no illicit sex, no gambling, no intoxication. And then the Niyama, the injunction is that we must chant 16 rounds minimum. Okay, and then next one is that Sangha Tyaga, avoiding the association of non-devotees. Furthermore, in order to be successful in devotional service, one must give up the association of undesirable people. So non-devotees, these include karmis, the jnanis. Who are the jnanis? The impersonalists. That impersonalists, those who wish to merge with Brahman, jnanis. And then the yogis, those who are searching for the mystic yoga perfection. And other non-devotees. So this is people in general, materialistic people in general. Once Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was asked by one of his householder devotees about the general principles of Vaishnavism, as well as the general routine activities of Vaishnava. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately replied, Asat Sangat Tyagad E Vaishnava Achar. Characteristically, a Vaishnava is one who gives up the association of worldly people or non-devotees. So Asat Sangha. Asat Sangha Tyaga. Tyaga means to give up the association of the Asat. Where we find this word Asat? Tat sadhuman yeshura varya dehinam sada samudvignadiyam asad grahat. Itvat mapatam grihamandako vanam gato yatarim asray. Prahlad Maharaj addressed his father. So this asad grahat means it's just a temporary. This is not sat means eternal. Asad means temporary, means something which is temporary, which is material activities, material wealth. These are all temporary. So quit this engagement. And Vanam Gato Yadhari, go to the forest, Vrindavan, Vanam, Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada translated as Vrindavan. Okay, that's about Sangha Tyaga, avoiding the association of non-devotees in general, specifically the karmis, the materialistic people, the jnanis, the impersonalists. It is advised also we should not hear the talk, commentary, or lecture from the impersonalists, from the Mayavadi. Mayavadi, what is that first? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Mayavada Bhasha Sunile Ahoy Sarvanas. Mayavada Bhasha Sunile Ahoy Sarvanas. If we hear the explanation of Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita from the Mayavadi, Sunile, Mayavada Bhasha Sunile, here, Hoy Sarvanas, all our bhakti will be destroyed. Hoy Sarvanas, Sarva means all, Sarvanas, destroyed. Okay. Sangha Tyaga Sato Rite, following the footstep of the Acharya. Srila Prabhupada writes here, very interesting. In this Krishna consciousness movement, we require everyone to rise early in the morning by 4 a.m. Very hardly we find Srila Prabhupada mention this kind of specific numbers. Just like in his purport in the Bhagavad Gita, about sleeping, Srila Prabhupada gives specific number of 6 hours out of the 24 hours, 6 hours. maximum 6 hours. And then here Srila Prabhupada mentioned that in this Krishna consciousness movement, everybody should get up early in the morning, at least by 4 o'clock, not later than that. I heard one lecture of His Holiness Bhaktivika Swami, initiation lecture. He said that if you cannot get up at 5 o'clock, at least at 5 o'clock in the morning, better postpone your initiation. But Srila Prabhupada mentioned here 4 o'clock because we should attend the Mangala Arati and attend Mangala Arati for morning worship, then read Srimad Bhagavatam, perform Kirtan, and so forth. Thus, we should thus we hold continuous activities in devotional service 24 hours daily. This is called Sattva Vritti, or following the footsteps of the previous acharyas, who expertly filled every moment of time with Krishna conscious activities. Avyarta Kala, one of the nine symptoms of those who are in bhava, in ecstasy, devotional service, is Avyarta Kala. We studied this in Nectar of the Krishna. That means never wasting time, Avyarta Kala, never wasting time. So our acharyas, especially the six Goswamis, they sleep maybe like two hours maximum, 2 hours out of the 24 hours, 2 hours maximum. They completely absorb Nana Sastra Vicharana Kani Puno Sadharma Samstapana. They are writing the Sastra, they are for the benefit of human being in general. Sadharma Samstapaka, to establish the religious principles. So much hard work they put, so much effort to benefit the human society in general. Sattva-vritti, so we must follow the previous acharyas. Mahajano Yenagata Sapanta. Prahlad Maharaj also explained this. We have to follow the footsteps of the Mahajana. Sattva-vritti, following the previous acharyas. If one strictly follows, the conclusion here. If one strictly follows the advice given in this verse by Srila Rupa Goswami, namely being enthusiastic, being confident, being patient, giving up the association of unwanted persons, following the regulative principles and remaining in the association of devotees, one is sure to advance in devotional service. Okay. That's the end of my presentation on text number 3, Upadesamrita. So this is the part of Anukul, favorable Anukul Yasa Sankalpa. We should take this because it is favorable. Text number 2 talk about the practical, the unfavorable. We have to reject all this atyahara, prayasa, and so on. And this being enthusiastic, utsaha, nischaya, being confident, patient, and so on, this should be taken by us. And then the next class will talk about how the Priti Laksana, the dealings among the devotees, loving exchange. Okay. All right, it's already 1.5 hours. I stop here. Whether any final question or something need to be clarified. Hare Krishna. Okay, you're silent. I take your silence as that
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
everything is clear. Okay, please, Nagarjun Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Okay, just I want to inform
Hare Krishna
that
Prabhu. Can we
those who-
listen lectures from other Sampradaya Prabhu, like Sri Sampradaya?
can we hear lecture from Sri Sampradaya? Very good question. Thank you very much. I just want to inform that because it's already 1.5 hours, those who have other engagement, you are allowed, you get my permission to leave Just want to answer this question. Can we hear the lecture from devotees from Sri Sampradaya? Well, first of all, Sri Sampradaya is one of the 4 bona fide Vaishnava Sampradayas. So we respect them, but actually we have different siddhanta in our philosophy. Siddhanta means conclusion. What is their conclusion? Vishnu is the topmost. Krishna comes from Vishnu. But our siddhanta is different. We accept the Srimad Bhagavatam, ete chamsa kalapumsa Krishnas to Bhagavan Swayam. So Vishnu comes from Krishna. It is not that Krishna comes from Vishnu. They may argue that, well, when Krishna take birth in the jail, first he took the form of Vishnu, and then later becomes Krishna. That's one of their argument I heard. Yeah, that Vishnu, the proof that actually Vishnu is the source of Krishna. But we accept that, if we study, scrutinize this Srimad Bhagavatam from Krishna, first expand to Balaram, and then the Chaturvyuha, and then the second Chaturvyuha, and then the Mahavishnu, Garbhodakasaya Vishnu, Karanakasaya Vishnu. So the Vishnu's form, actually, the incarnation of Krishna. Krishna is called Avatari. He's not an avatar. He's called Avatari, source, the fountainhead of all incarnation. So regarding your question, can we hear some lecture from Sri Sampradaya? I personally would suggest that we have enough books of Srila Prabhupada, and our Siddhanta is Gaudiya Vaishnava, Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. Siddhanta is different from Sri Sampradaya, but at the same time we have to respect them. We have to respect them because they are all Vaishnavas. They are also Vaishnavas in the Sri Lakshmi Devi's line. And no doubt that by the end of their life, if they are seriously practicing their sadhana, they will go back to Vaikuntha. But we, those who are in the Gaudiya Vaishnava, those who are follower of the Gaudiya Vaishnava, the Bengali Vaishnava, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu follower, we don't desire Vaikuntha. I mean, we desire a higher place, Goloka Vrindavan. So I would suggest we respect them, we associate with them, we can take prasadam along with them, we can invite them. I know people from Sri Sampradaya from South India, they are very expert in reciting some mantra. So one time I was attending the cornerstone, the first stone, laying the first stone of one of our ISKCON temple in South India, in Andhra, in Kakinada. So we invited some priests, some devotees from Sri Sampradaya to perform the yajna, because they are very expert. They memorize this mantra since their childhood. They don't read books like most of our ISKCON priests still reading the books while performing the homa, but they don't read books. They just chant blah 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 like that. So we can invite them for this kind of occasion, but we don't hear, not recommended. Even Srila Prabhupada very strictly, in the matter of hearing, very strictly, Srila Prabhupada said, even those who are from Gaudiya Maths, those who are from Gaudiya Maths, we are not encouraged to hear from them. Yeah. One time Srila Prabhupada said, if my god brother comes, I don't want to mention his name. If my god brother comes here, you should respect them because they are sannyasi. You should respect them, honor them, give prasadam. But if they want to lecture, you just tell them already somebody's scheduled. Someone is already scheduled to lecture. So that means we should respect them, but we don't hear from them because we have enough. Srila Prabhupada's classes, many qualified devotees in ISKCON, yeah, that we can hear from. So I would advise, from my own perspective, we don't hear from them, but we do respect them because they are also Vaishnavas. We can visit their temple, no problem. we associate with them, but we don't hear from them because our Siddhanta conclusion is different. Sometimes when you have different conclusion, there is a tendency to argue. When two devotees arguing, subtly, even though on the base of Shastra, sometimes devotees arguing, and that will create some frictions and Vaishnava para. This is very dangerous. So yeah, respect them, associate with them, take prasadam, give them prasadam, no problem. We can visit their temples, but we don't generally listen to their lectures. That's nice. Hare Krishna. Okay. Swarup Siddhi Prabhu said, recently I met one sannyasi from Sri Sampradaya. He was talking about merge into Krishna. We have to be very careful. Sometimes Mayavadis also may dress as Vaishnavas. Yeah, this idea of merging, actually not, it's irrelevant for us. Well, the understanding of merging is merging in intention. Srila Prabhupada explained this very clearly. Merging in intention. Okay, we go to a spiritual world to serve Krishna. Merging in intention. We want to serve Krishna, and Krishna wants to please his devotees in a loving exchange. This is what we call merging. But merging into Krishna's existence or Brahma Jyoti, this is not applicable for us. And I don't know. I have no comment, no further comment on that. But yes, we do. We have to be very careful. Even among ISKCON devotees also, we have to be very careful to choose with whom we associate with. So yeah, Hare Krishna. Thank you all very much. Vancha kalpatarubhyacha kripa sindhubhya evacha. Patitanam panebhyo vaishnavibhyo